Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Entitled Mom spent an hour shopping while her kids screamed the entire time, then tried to exchange clothes from over a year ago. After that, Entitled Jerk almost paralyzes my friend. Parents scream at principal and refuse to pay hospital bills. And after that, ex-boss called me to yell at me for not showing up to work. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets fired. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Entitled Mom spent an hour shopping while her kids screamed the entire time, then tried to exchange clothes from over a year ago. So this happened a few years ago when I was working part-time at a clothing outlet. Let's just say that this company sells higher-end clothing and caters almost exclusively to Karens. My life was heck for those 2 years. God bless those who work there full-time. You are the real heroes. Cast. We've got me. We've got Entitled Mom, the lady who has clearly never interacted with another human being. We've got Entitled Kid, her screaming 1-year-old. And we've got my poor coworker. Let me start by saying this was a Saturday shift in a crowded shopping mall, and I was working a double to cover for a coworker. I had recently been promoted to shift lead, so I was the manager on duty that day and was closing. Fast forward to the end of the day. The day was insane, and by the end of it, both my coworker and I were exhausted. We were tidying up the store and taking care of all the go-backs when I heard the door open. It was 8:53. We close at 9. Enter Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid. Typically, if we have customers that come in that late, it's to grab a gift card or something. We do have the occasional shopper that comes right before close and stays a while, but they are typically fairly quick when they realize that they are the only ones there holding us up. Not tonight. The first thing I notice is that Entitled Kid is screaming, like it's really loud. I walk up to greet Entitled Mom over the sounds of her screaming offspring. Me. Good evening, ma'am. Is there something that I can help you find today? Entitled Mom. No thanks, just browsing. The worst answer. Me. Okay, well, let me know if you need help with anything before I close the dressing rooms. My little way of insinuating that it's late and I want to go home. Entitled Mom. Well, I'll definitely need a dressing room. Can you go ahead and start one for me? Me, yelling at this point over the sound of Entitled Kid screaming. Sure thing. Entitled Mom. Sorry about him. He's had a long day. Haven't we all? As I walk away, I notice that Entitled Mom has a trash bag full of clothes underneath the stroller that she's carting around her screaming kid in. Odd, but whatever. Maybe she has a Goodwill donation. For the next hour and a half, this woman tries on every single article of clothing in the store. Per corporate policy, we can't rush guests as they shop, as long as they come in before close. We tried everything, turning off the music, sweeping the floor, closing the 2 out of 3 registers, etc. Pretty much all the indicators that we are closed and to get out. And yet, she stayed. And her kid screamed for an hour of it before he fell asleep. At around 10:30, she's ready to check out. I have coworkers start to ring her up so I can get closing started in the back and get us the heck out of here. I'm in the stockroom when I hear the screams. I rush out and I find this lady screaming. And coworker, who is one of the nicest people I've ever known, is crying at this point. Nee. What seems to be the problem? Anything I can help with? Entitled Mom. Yes, you can fire this idiot because she's treating me like absolute garbage. I don't think corporate will be very happy to hear how their employees are treating paying customers. Coworker looks at me with tear-filled eyes. Me. Coworker, will you go to the back and finish the online orders for me? I'll take care of Entitled Mom. Okay, ma'am. What can I help you with? Entitled Mom. Well, I was trying to get these clothes returned so I can put the credit towards my purchase. Entitled Mom then takes the full garbage bag of clothes and dumps it out in front of me. Technically, the clothes inside the bag were all from the store where I worked. However, they were all a year older or more. Clearly well-worn, no tags. Me. Ma'am, I'm so sorry, but you cannot return these. What? Why not? Well, for one, they don't have any tags, you don't have a receipt, and they have clearly been washed and worn by you for quite some time. Returns are typically recent purchases that don't quite fit. Well, these don't fit me anymore, so I would like to return them. said in a very condescending tone. Me. Our return policy is 30 days, and it can't be washed, and you need a tag or receipt. Can't you just give me store credit? No, I cannot. You can try resale shops if you want to, but we aren't a thrift store. These pieces aren't even in production anymore. I'm not an idiot. I know these clothes are from a while ago because I'm the one who bought them. They don't fit me anymore because I was busy creating human life, and now I need new clothes. She gestures to her poor, exhausted kid, who at this point has woken up and began to scream again. Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I still can't accept these as returns. Can I help you purchase the clothes you picked out today? Like heck you can't. I have had a long day and deserve this. I can't afford to buy these without returning my old clothes. Me. Then I don't know what I can do for you. You can get me your manager. Me, full of satisfaction. I'm the manager on the floor tonight. Well then, you are so done for. I'm calling corporate to report you. Me. Here's their number. Call center's open tomorrow at 7 a.m. Entitled Mom's mouth dropped. Pretty sure she didn't expect me to be so cavalier about getting reported, but I did not give a single hoot at this point. She was quiet for a moment and took a deep breath and asked if I could help her bag up her old clothes to take with her so she could give her screaming kid a snack. I was pretty shocked at the abrupt mood change, but whatever. I'm exhausted and want to leave so bad. I start bagging up her old clothes when she reached down to grab her kid's snack. As I'm putting the clothes in the bag, she reaches over the counter, grabs the clothes she was going to purchase, and then runs towards the door. I just stand there because it's against our policy to stop people from shoplifting anyway, and I've locked the doors to prevent other people from coming in. She gets to the doors and violently yanks the handle back and forth, trying to open them. I calmly walk over. Let me out. Me. Sure thing. I hold out my hands for the clothes. She glares at me, then wisely decides it's not worth it. She shoves the clothes at me and turns away, muttering at me as she does so. I unlock the door and she leaves. As if that encounter wasn't crazy enough, she actually called corporate to complain after literally trying to shoplift from our store. What a wild ride. Entitled jerk almost paralyzes my friend. Parents scream at principal and refuse to pay hospital bills. Today I have an amazing story for you. By the way, this story took place in a private school. Cast. We've got me, we've got entitled kid, entitled mother, entitled father, the teacher, and my friend. Background. Entitled kid is a jerk. There is no doubt about it. He's an arrogant jerk who thinks he can get away with anything, and he pretty much can, since whenever people call him out, he calls his mommy and daddy, who are friends with the principal. We think they bribe him, so he never gets in trouble. All the teachers and students who know him hate him, but since I'm in a private school, what the principal says goes, so no one can do anything about him. Luckily, I changed schools this year as I got accepted into a gifted and sci-tech school, so I'm finally done with him. The actual story. Friend and I were in music class with the rest of our class, including Entitled Kid. We are unfortunate enough to have to sit next to Entitled Kid as all three of us play the saxophone, and teacher seats us according to which instrument we play. Since Entitled Kid always sits on the end seat, Friend and I take turns next to Entitled Kid. Today was Friend's turn. Entitled Kid was completely ignoring class and was just spending his time annoying Friend. Entitled Kid would pull back Friend's seat every time Friend tried to sit down. 20 minutes into class, and Friend had already caught Entitled Kid doing it 5 times and pulled his seat back into place so he could sit in it. Unfortunately, Friend didn't catch Entitled Kid the 6th time he tried this. Friend had just finished playing his solo, and when he sat back down, Entitled Kid pulled his seat back yet again. Friend didn't notice, so he ended up falling backwards. However, Entitled Kid didn't pull his chair back very far, so Friend actually ended up hitting his head against the sharp edge of the chair. Keep in mind, these chairs are solid metal, and Friend hit his head right above the neck, where the spinal cord was located. Friend is really hurt and down on the floor. Nobody noticed this until Friend cried out in pain. Everyone looked over and saw him, and Entitled Kid with a guilty look on his face. For a second, nobody moved. Then it was pandemonium. I and another friend of mine rushed over to Friend and started helping him. Some other kids ran out of the room to get the principal. Teacher just stood there with a shocked look on his face. Friend's mom ended up being called, and Friend was taken to the hospital, where he was treated. I don't know exactly what happened at the hospital because Friend didn't want to talk about it afterwards, and I didn't press him. Back at school, things weren't looking good for Entitled Kid. Even though the principal usually didn't punish Entitled Kid when he did something wrong, with so many eyewitnesses and with Friend possibly being seriously hurt, the principal had no choice but to suspend Entitled Kid for 2 weeks. Entitled Kid's parents were called, and I and a few others were asked to stay to give a more detailed account of what had happened. At this point, you guys are probably wondering why this was posted in r/EntitledParents, since there haven't been any yet. Well, don't worry, you're not going to be disappointed. 15 minutes after Entitled Kid's parents were called, an expensive car came screeching into the parking lot, way faster than the speed limit. The driver and passenger doors were thrust open, and out came Entitled Kid's parents. They were dressed in business suits, and Entitled Mom had sunglasses on. They stormed to the front entrance and threw open the doors, yelling at him. Entitled Father: "What have you done? Why is my kid suspended?" At the principal. The principal explained why. Entitled Father: "That's BS. Entitled Kid is perfect and would never do that. Your witnesses are lying." He pointed at me and the other witnesses. "How dare you trust them over my son?" Principal: "Sir, please calm down. Even the teacher saw what happened." Entitled Mom: "Then fire the teacher. He is a liar." Principal: "Entitled Kid's parents, please calm down. We trusted you." Principal yelling now: "Do not yell at me. Leave the premises now or I'll expel your son." "Fine, but you'll be hearing from our lawyer." They left with Entitled Kid in tow, and the principal collapsed in his seat and sighed in relief. He told us to go back to class and he'd call us down again later. He didn't say why, but he was probably exhausted after that encounter. This was the last I ever saw of either of them, but the story wasn't over yet. From this point forward, everything said here is from Friend's point of view and was told to me afterwards by Friend. This isn't the exact conversation, but it's the gist of it. Friend's total medical bills came to about $500 because although healthcare is free and they had insurance, Friend's mom also took Friend to a naturopath and an acupuncturist. Friend and his mom met with Entitled Kid's parents in a coffee shop 3 days after the incident to settle outside of court. As soon as Friend's mom sat down to the table, Entitled Kid's mom threw a $20 bill at Friend's mom and said, "There you go, that should cover it." Friend's mom told Entitled Mom that the total actually came to $500, not $20. "BS, said Entitled Father. Healthcare is free." Friend's mom told Entitled Parents that they had gone to a naturopath and an acupuncturist and then showed them the bills. "That's your problem. If you decided to go to some fancy pants specialist, that's your choice. You pay for it," replied Entitled Father. Friend's mom explained that Friend had been almost paralyzed, had damage done to his spinal cord, so Friend had needed to go to these specialists. "Sure, he was almost paralyzed," snorted Entitled Father with a smirk. "Nah, I don't buy it. I think you just wanted to take advantage of us paying and decided to go to some specialists because you think we can afford it. Guess what, lady? That won't work." "I have x-rays and a doctor's note saying I should go to these specialists," said Friend's mom, showing him the note and x-rays. "If you don't pay, I will take you to court. I'll press charges against your son and have him go to juvie." Friend told me that this was when Entitled Mom and Entitled Father started taking his mom seriously. "Shut up," said Entitled Mom. "The money, now," said Friend's mom. "Fine, here's the money, you jerk." He pulled out his wallet and chucked $500 at Friend's mom. He then continued yelling at them, calling them stupid. Friend's mom took the money and walked away, ignoring them. And that's the end. Entitled Kid ended up not coming back to school after this, so I didn't see him or his parents again. Ex-boss called me to yell at me for not showing up to work. Some backstory and general info. I am female with a somewhat unique name. Yes, this is important. I was 18, I'm 23 now, when I got my first job at a Western wear store and didn't even work there for a full year. We sold mainly cowboy boots and did some clothes and accessories that went along with that general theme. I loved working there, and it was a pretty great first job. There were 2 locations, one in my town and one in the next state. I stayed at one location in my town, and my boss mostly stayed at the other location because she lived closer to it. She also had an employee who would go in between stores as the boss needed it. At first, I thought my boss was a really cool lady. However, that opinion would soon change. You see, she wasn't good at running a business and didn't want to keep paying the expensive rent for the building we were currently using, so she moved the store to an obscure location at the beginning of the summer. She admitted that summers were the slowest season, So in my opinion, it was not smart to move locations then. She would also avoid regular customers when they would come in to talk to her about their orders taking too long to arrive. I also heard she was a homewrecker, and the guy whose marriage she ruined would come into the store regularly. Needless to say, she was a bad business lady who did whatever she wanted. After she moved the store, we started losing business. She started scheduling less of us, having maybe 2 employees working at once. Then she told me, "It wouldn't hurt my feelings if you looked for another job." I remember that word for word. Looking back, I realized that was her way of saying, "You should probably find another job." Soon we weren't getting scheduled at all. She was running the store by herself, and she kept saying, "Maybe business will pick up next week and I'll need you." Then one day my mom came home and asked if my boss had moved again. I said I didn't know, then asked why. She informed me that she drove by my work and it looked empty. I told my friend, and soon she drove by and told me that it was indeed completely deserted. I officially didn't have a job anymore. Thankfully, I was working at a barn a few days a week, so I had some kind of income. I did find out that this woman still had her other store open, so I was a little salty. Now, the real story. I was chilling at home a few months after I found out my boss had deserted us when I see that she is calling me. I thought it was weird and answered. The call started off very friendly and cheerful, but then her jerk side came out. The call went something like this. Me. Hello? Ex-boss. Hi, OP? Me. Yes? Hi, this is your ex-boss. How are you? I'm alright. How are you? I'm good. Look, I'm calling because... Cue the jerkness. You cannot keep calling out of work like this. Me, completely confused. Excuse me? What? You keep calling out when you should be here working. I have places I need to be. An ex-coworker cannot run the store alone. Me, I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh? You don't know what I'm talking about? Said in a mocking tone. No ma'am, I haven't worked for you in months. She's silent for a few seconds, then hangs up. I sat there for a minute, processing what had just happened. I figured she must have a worker at the other store with the same name as me, and she just called the wrong one. But I have a very uncommon name, so that is unlikely in my opinion. And if it was a mistake, why not just own up to it and apologize? But instead, like a scared middle schooler, she hangs up. It was in this moment I lost what little respect I had left for her. I wish there was a better way of ending this, but there isn't. I never heard from her again. I have looked up her other store, and it turns out she eventually closed that one too, and now she works at an airport. That somewhat makes me happy. Part of me wants to open a store like hers and run it better than she did. We'll see. Landlord lost his business over a $300 security deposit. I rented a little house from a man who owned a painting business. The power was off when we came to see the property, but he assured us everything worked, even put it in the contract. The place was dirty and poorly maintained, so we negotiated the security deposit down to $300. Turned out, the heat/air didn't work, along with the refrigerator and dishwasher. I asked him to have someone look at them. He cursed me up and down. He called and left threatening voicemails. He would show up unannounced and let himself in. On one of the visits, I showed him that the crawl space was flooded and was a breeding ground for thousands, if not millions, of roaches and mosquitoes that would come up through the floor vents. There was absolutely no ductwork, even though he claimed the heat and air worked fine. He accused me of causing the flood myself, even though I showed him the source was a pipe that had rusted through. He refused to address any problems and said, "If you don't like it, then you can move. You can't pay for a bargain and expect to live in the Ritz." This man was a terrible man in general. Once he hired someone off Craigslist to cut down a tree in the rental property's yard. The man worked literally all day for the agreed $150, cut up and hauled off the tree. He came back that evening just standing in the yard. I asked if I could help him. He said he was waiting for the owner to get paid. The owner kept replying, saying he was on the way, but never showed up. Our neighbor told us he had punched the previous renter in the face and refused to pay him for a day's work for his company. He had bragged about renting to illegal immigrants and not having to do anything because they wouldn't sue. We had a newborn baby, so we called his bluff and agreed to find a new place to live. We left the home in much better shape than we found it. He said he would mail us the security deposit, but never did. He dodged my phone calls until one day he called to say, "You aren't getting it back. You broke the contract when you left early, so go forget yourself." I was really upset because we were new parents and had very little money. That $300 was a big deal to us and a drop in the bucket for this man. He owned an upscale painting business and had 15 rental properties. The next week, I was online leaving negative reviews for his business when I clicked a link and noticed his website's domain had just lapsed. I knew what I had to do. I immediately bought it, then created a homepage with contact info for his biggest competitor. I emailed him from his old domain, asking him if he wanted to buy the website for $320, the cost of the security deposit plus the price I paid for the domain. He was irate. He started calling my work, threatening to sue my employer. He even contacted my parents and threatened to sue them. He left a bunch of threatening voicemails for me, saying he was going to beat me up and he knows where I live and he has my social security number. I received emails from several review sites asking if I was trying to update the contact info for the business. He must have used his old domain's email as his contact email. I didn't want to get in trouble for impersonating his business, so I did not respond. The contact info was never changed. I received a few emails from potential clients. I called him and told him about the painting job requests. I gave him the contact info for one of the clients to prove I wasn't just making it up. I told him it was the last time I was going to do that for him and suggested he buy the website back in order to not miss out on any other jobs. He told me he was taking me to court. I told him I had recorded his threatening phone calls and saved all his texts and voicemails. He said he was going to sue me for illegally recording him. Not illegal in my state. I said, I look forward to seeing you in court when I countersue and press charges for harassing me. And I hung up. He called back and yelled at me for hanging up on him. I said, call me back when you can speak respectfully to me, and hung up again. We repeated this about 5 times. Each time he was more angry until the last time. He spoke respectfully and explained he hadn't got a single job in months. I suggested he focus more on creating a website to find business. He lost it and yelled at me again. 6 months passed and he still hadn't bought the website from me. I get a call from him, begging me to do the right thing and give him the website back. I told him the current price was $350. 6 months later, I get another phone call. I told him the current price is $380. Eventually, he texted me to say, I went out of business. I hope you're happy. I responded, I hear having a website really helps your business. $380 and it's yours. He told me what a terrible person I am and said, karma's a jerk. I responded, maybe if you stop trying to rip people off, your karma wouldn't be so bad. This was the last time I ever heard from him. The major business listing sites confirmed his business did indeed close. I renewed the domain for another 2 years just in case he was bluffing. A few months later, I drive by his office to see if he was still there. It was empty with a "for rent" sign posted. I never got that $300 back and spent money on domain registrations, but it was totally worth it. Why I helped him and not you, Karen. This happened 2 weeks ago. I live in England in a decent-sized town. Cast. We've got me, we've got Karen, we've got the store manager, and the location is Sainsbury Local, a small version of Sainsbury's supermarket in England. The story. So my dad had asked me to send off some important mail and had asked me to go and do some shopping for some supplies for home. I say okay, grab the car keys and head off to the post office, after which I leave my car parked in the post office parking whilst I walk over to the Sainsbury Local, as it is only a 2 or 3 minute walk from the post office, reusable shopping bag in hand. I was wearing a blue hoodie with a pair of dark blue jeans, a face mask, and my everyday pair of gray shoes. Once I reached the Sainsbury's, I was told to wait a little bit by the security guard to allow for some people to leave from the small shop in order to maintain distancing. After a short wait, I was let in. I go to the fruit and vegetables where I begin to pick up the items I've been asked to pick up. Following this, I move over to the milk section where I accidentally knock over a stack of chocolate eclairs. I begin picking them up as it was my fault, and I'm not a monster to let the staff of the store pick the items up when it's clearly my fault. They have better things to do than to pick up things knocked over by the public. I just want to take this moment to say thank you to all the frontline workers and all the effort they're putting in to help us all. I finish putting the items back where they belong and proceed to the frozen goods section, which is where I hear an "Excuse me." I turn around to see an elderly gentleman and his wife, who politely asked me where the cereal was. I told him where it was, as I'm quite familiar with this store and have been most of my life. I said please follow me, as I'm also going to the same aisle to pick up cereal for myself. They thanked me and I moved on to some of the other items on my list, such as bread. So in the bakery section, I was pondering which bread my dad wanted, which is when I hear the dreaded throat clear. My original thought process was that I was in the way, so I moved out of the way. I thought that was it, and I was about to move on to another aisle when I hear another throat clear. This time, I turn around to an old middle-aged lady who was glaring daggers at me. This is the conversation that occurred. Me. Can I help you, miss? Karen. I have been waiting for you for a while now. Who the heck do you think you are to ignore me? Do you know who I am? Me. I'm sorry about that. I was not ignoring you. I simply did not realize you were there. I was cut off. So you admit you were ignoring me? No, ma'am. I was not. She cuts me off again. I don't care. Anyways, go grab me some oatmeal, you lazy good-for-nothing. Me, realizing that she thinks I work there. Oh no, ma'am. I do not work here. See, my uniform is completely different from theirs. Sainsbury had a maroon-colored jacket with a maroon top and bottom with orange lines on their seams with their name on a company logo badge on the top. Karen. BS. I saw you helping that elderly couple, and then you were stocking the shelves just before that. You definitely work here, so get off your phone and go get my oatmeal. Me. I was just putting those items back as I had accidentally knocked them over. And as for the couple, they asked me politely and did not know what went where. Admittedly, I was starting to get upset now due to the way this lady was shouting constantly. Karen, after using some colorful language, finishing off with this gem. You useless jerk. You should be happy to get to work in these times. Get me your manager now. I'm going to get you fired. At this stage, because she was shouting so loudly and it was a rather smallish store, both the security guard and the manager walked over. Manager. What seems to be the issue, ma'am? Karen. I want this useless good-for-nothing fired. He was messing around on his phone whilst working and not helping me. She said this while smirking at me with a face as if saying, I've got you now. Manager takes a quick look at me. Firstly, miss, please calm down. Secondly, this individual clearly does not work for us. We have the uniform I mentioned before, but he is wearing a blue hoodie that's clearly not part of the attire. He is clearly a customer here. Can you kindly leave him alone and proceed with the rest of your shopping? At this stage, my anger was starting to dissipate, but you could clearly see in the manager's face that he was starting to get annoyed at this lady. Manager, can you refrain from such language in the store, please? If you continue this language, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Karen, why do I have to leave? He, pointing at me, is the one who didn't want to help me, and now you are defending him? More strong words were used towards me. Manager is now upset. Ma'am, please proceed to check out with all your items and leave. I can't have you talking to our customers like this. If you do not comply, I will have you removed by the security guard. Karen, forget you and this store. I'm leaving. I'm never coming back. Forget all of you. She throws the basket with all the items on the floor and proceeds to leave, escorted out by the security guard. Manager, are you okay? He knows me as I've frequented this store so much. Me, yeah, I'm good. Thanks for sticking up for me. That lady has a few screws loose. Manager chuckling. Yeah, she does. This is when we hear a very loud scream of, what the heck? From outside the store. Me, manager, and some employees go over to the source and see Karen's car being ticketed as she had parked in a handicapped parking zone. She was holding a yellow bag in her hand. This was a parking ticket. Apparently, during the time the lady was in the store, a police officer had come over to grab some items and had seen her parking and ticketed her, according to the elderly man who I had helped earlier. He said he had apparently seen the whole ordeal go down. The person who had ticketed her, the elderly gentleman's son who was waiting in his car outside. Elderly gentleman chuckling. Guess karma's a jerk, huh, young lad? Elderly lady. Don't use such language, Jim. Hope you're all right though, young lad. We asked my son for a favor as he was nearby, and as you had helped us earlier, then you got treated so horribly by that woman. Good riddance, some people these days. Me, a bit surprised and puzzled. You did that? Thank you so much. The elderly couple then met with their son and they proceed to leave. The rest of the staff, me and some onlookers, then went on about our business. Manager. OP, what things were you here for? Let me help you. Me. Oh, you don't need to do that. I'm almost done anyways. The manager then gave me a good portion of the stuff I was buying for free, which I was very grateful for, after which I proceeded back home. And shoutouts to our Regenerals of the day, King Juggernaut, Indiana, and Robert. Become tomorrow's Regenerals by leaving as many reads as you can in the comments below, and please listen to my playlist every night when you go to sleep.